everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Welcome to the first update video on my new Nissan 240SX project car. If you couldn't already tell from the first video, I'm really excited about this build. It's definitely something different than, the normal content I put on this channel, but I wanted this to be a fun and interactive experience to involve as many of you guys as possible so we can build and all have fun with this thing together. If you haven't seen that first video, be sure to check out the link in the top right hand corner of the video. I basically give everyone an in-depth tour of the car, we take it for a drive, talk about why I bought the car in the first place and what to expect from this new series. A lot of you guys were expecting a detailing video this week, but I ended up watching Chrisfix's Superclean video, which was really well done, by the way. I put the link to it in the description box below, and I realized I needed to step my detailing game up quite a bit, so I bought a bunch of new supplies I'm going to try out for the first time on this, including, a pressure washer, a foam cannon. It's going to be even more fun now, so it'll probably be up next Sunday, but again, be sure to stay tuned to my social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Drive Tribe. It's the best ways to keep up to date with the 240 project and upcoming videos, schedule changes, and all of that kind of stuff. The social media links are all in the description box below. So I took to Instagram and whatnot to basically ask people, okay, what do you want to see this week? Because I wanted to try to keep the 240 content flowing. And the thing that showed up the most is people wanted to know, what my grand vision for this is. So that's what I'm going to do. We're at Squirrel Spur Road up in Virginia, taking some sweet corners in the 240 and just having fun today. I'm going to go through all of, my ideas for the build, and I want you guys to give me feedback and your ideas and stuff. Like I said, I want this to be interactive. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So let's kick all of this off by talking about the exterior. I've gotten so many suggestions and I really appreciate everyone's feedback. Again, I like the original character of the car very much, and it would be cheaper just to leave it the way it is. So I want to preserve that originality. I don't want to put any body kits or massive wings on it or anything like that. If anything, it'll be kind of stealthy, which will be cool, and I'll talk about, colors and stuff like that in just a moment. But being that this has the sport package, it has that little front air dam splitter, and it has the rear spoiler on the deck lid, or had. I'll talk about that in just a second too. But I think it'll be really cool to build this car, this vision I have in my head, and I'll show you some pictures towards the end of this segment so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I think it's really cool. It's got so much 80s character. Okay, so we're at the rear. The biggest problem back here is the lack of original spoiler. I showed you guys that, these have an inherent problem. The original wings would actually collect water and stuff underneath and cause these trunk lids to rust. While this one has not rusted, the original spoiler had been broken off, so it had a bunch of old rusty clamps and pins and stuff. And the other day I popped all that mess out just to assess it. There's a little bit of corrosion here and there that I got to get fixed, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I went ahead and just put painter's tape and stuff over it, because every time it rained I would get like an inch of water in the trunk. So I was gonna put the original spoiler on for this video or the next video, but until I figure out what I'm doing with paint or wrapping, I don't think it's a smart idea to potentially ruin the new spoiler that I just bought. But I bought an original OEM Nissan spoiler for this car to keep that original character, so it'll be really cool when everything is said and done. It'll almost be like the pièce de résistance, just to finish everything off. I'm going to change out the exhaust system too, but I want to wait until I do some engine work. The only thing I've done to it so far is to cut the resonator off, because it was worn out, it was rattling, just making all sorts of noise in the interior. It sounds really good right now. It doesn't look too good right here because it's missing one of its tips, but once the engine stuff gets done, we'll put a proper exhaust system, so it'll sound really good. Okay, so on this side, you can really see the silhouette of the fastback. They also made a coupe, they made a convertible as well, but the fastback was my favorite. I just love the sloping roofline right here and how this glass basically wraps all the way around. You have the little 240 logo here. It just oozes so much character. I love it. As far as the interior, you don't see too many 240s with blue interior, and I think that's, part of this car's charm. I think it's really cool, and just because you don't see too much of it. I'm going to change out the steering wheel and shift knob, definitely, because, the leather is degrading. It comes off in your hands. Same thing with the shift knob, and even though I really like the style, I do hope to have this, both of these things refurbished. I got to find out who can do that, but it'd be awesome to put the OE equipment back in, but I'm definitely going to do that. It'll give it a nice fresh thing, and it won't be so gross coming off in your hands. So to wrap up the exterior, I recently bought Forza Horizon 3 because I knew they had one of these in the game, and I wanted to see if I can actually build my vision and see it on a big screen. And amazingly, I was able to do so. So I want to go ahead and show you guys those screenshots now. I'm really excited about how this car could possibly look. Basically, aside from like fixing the dents and stuff, I want to wrap this car. You know, it would be cool to paint it later on, repaint it, you know, the original midnight blue pearl. But I want to wrap it right now in like a brushed like steel look, kind of like the finish and texture that you would see on a DeLorean. Not too long ago when I was at SEMA, I saw an SLP Camaro that had the same wrap, and it was amazing looking, especially with like some gloss black accents. So I want to wrap the entire roof in gloss black, because across the sides right here, it is black. The only painted portion is the very top portion of the roof. So wrapping this whole thing black with everything else that's already factory black, I think is gonna look awesome and very, very stealthy. And I'm looking at a set of 17-inch by 7.5 Momo wheels right now. They're one of the wheels that I'm considering. And but like a matte gray finish. So I want to kind of keep it stealthy, very, very clean. But I want to hear your feedback. So let me know in the comment section below. Next, we're going to go ahead and hit the road and talk about the wheels and suspension changes a little bit more. So let's go ahead and talk about wheels, tires, brakes, and suspension, because I think that's the most important thing when you're starting a build like this. One, buy the car. Two, become more comfortable with the way it drives stock and figure out how you can improve it upon that. And then start building it up, making it stiffer, making it lower, making it stop better and all of that, you know, before you start adding crazy amounts of power. So the wheels that are on the car right now are the factory 15 by 6-inch wheels. So not a lot of width, not a lot of tire. I honestly wanted to keep the factory setup just because it looks, you know, very cool from the late 80s, but when it comes to, you know, beefing up all the components and stuff, there's really not much you can do with that size wheel and the tires and all of that. So with the wheels, I also want to upgrade the brakes. So I'm trying to keep all of this on a budget, so I'm probably going to just focus on the front brakes and then upgrade the factory setup. And what I mean by that, with larger wheels, I can fit larger brakes. I'm thinking about maybe 13-inch rotors up front, and then keep the same size at the rear, just change out the discs, maybe something slotted or whatnot, better pads, because I do want to add some power and I want it to stop, and most of the braking power is going to be, you know, with the front anyway, so I don't see a point in really beefing up the rear aside from pads and just changing out the discs to, you know, for better cooling. Suspension is another thing that I'm trying to figure out as well. I definitely want to drop the car. I thought about lowering springs, but I don't want to have to worry about like camber correction and everything. I definitely don't want to stance it. I don't want to have like severe negative camber and all of that to try to make big wheels fit. So that's why it's like a balancing act, trying to figure out like how all this stuff fits and how all the pieces basically fit into the puzzle, so to speak. So if I don't do lowering springs, I was actually thinking about coil overs, because you get a lot of adjustment out of those, and a lot of them I think come with stuff called like camber plates and stuff, so it'll actually correct the wheel so it'll stick straight, you know, or you can dial, you know, some camber or whatever you want, but you just get a lot more flexibility. Obviously that's more expensive, so you got to figure out the cost-benefit ratio with that, but I think that's going to probably be the best avenue. But again, all the research and stuff really is going to come in handy. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the ideas I had for the engine, just performance in general. So in the last video, I talked about how I was considering an engine swap, and to be honest, I was considering an RB25 from like a Skyline GTST. So it'd be turbocharged, about 250 horsepower or so. It would not be cheap to put in. That's the only thing that kind of gives me some reservations, and the fact that, you know, they didn't make that engine here. What if something breaks? What do you have to source the part from Japan? There's a lot of things to weigh in, you know, when it comes to putting an engine in like that. I mean, especially the RB26 full-blown GTR engine. The only downside with that is that the transmission is made, you know, for all-wheel drive capability, because the GTR is all-wheel drive, so you'd have to get a different transmission. So the RB25, as far as, you know, those kind of engines, would be the easiest to put in, but still not easy. Of course, the other options are, you know, the LS motor, of course, which I don't really want to do that, even though I'm a big fan of V8s and American muscle. I think it would just detract from the character of this car too much. I mean, when you put an engine like that in this, is it really a 240 anymore? You know, to each his own, and I think it's awesome that people do it, but I don't think it's the direction I want to go for this build. And of course, you have the 1JZ, 2JZ Toyota motors, you know, especially, you know, the 2JZ, you know, twin turbocharged, just like the GTR engine. That's probably a good, you know, bang for your buck right there. But again, I don't really want to put an engine from another manufacturer in this because I want to keep it in the Nissan family. Which leads me to what I'm kind of leaning towards, you know, aside from the RB25, I'm still, you know, weighing the cost-benefit ratio on that too, but just keeping what I got. I mean, this engine, 2.4 liter four-cylinder, that's where the name 240 comes from, 140 horsepower, 150 some pound-feet of torque. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but I mean, it's definitely got some quickness to it. I mean, this one has 154,000 miles on it, and it doesn't skip a beat at all. Without that resonator, it sounds pretty good. I could just rebuild what I have right here, you know, make it super reliable and all of that, but then maybe build on top of it. Maybe add a turbocharger kit, upgrade some of the internals, you know, full exhaust system, intake, and all of that, and just enjoy what I got right here, and to the point maybe boosting it to 200, 220 horsepower. I don't know. That seems like a lot for something like this. That's like what Volkswagen GTIs are making, and those are super quick. And I think this weighs a lot less than a GTI. So I think that's a good manageable amount of power considering the tires. You know, if I want to do 7.5-inch wheels and maybe, I don't know, 215 or 225 width tires, I think that's a good balance of power for that kind of rubber and stuff. But I think building upon what I have right here makes the most sense financially and just reliability and stuff in the long run. But I want to see what you guys think. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this initial update video on my 240SX project. Be sure to leave all of your feedback and suggestions in the comment section below. Leave a like for the video, and don't forget to subscribe. There's always a lot more where that came from. Take care, everyone.